Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today. Welcome back. I hope your week is unfolding oh so beautifully. It is Thursday. We are jam-packed with business to attend to. And we know that since it's Thursday, tomorrow is a Friday. We're excited about that. And we hope you join us back tomorrow as well. Quick housekeeping note. We will be back tomorrow early, one early stream tomorrow. So we'll be back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern for the show. Mama G is coming up into town, and then we're doing meatballs with the Membos on Saturday. So that's the housekeeping scheduling change. But we got other business to attend to today. We got an American Pope now, my friends. And so we're going to do a quick update on this. There's a lot of reaction to this. Is this a woke Pope? Is this an American hope Pope? Lots of debate percolating around on the interwebs on this one. So we'll poke through some of the reaction and see what you think about all of it. But we got reaction. Some people saying this dude was a big George Floyd supporter. This dude was anti-Trump, tweeting some bad things and so on and so forth. We'll go through it and we'll see what this Pope ultimately does. But Charlie Kirk also dug it up, saying he's got some Republican history as well. So we'll go through it. Matt Walsh, I think, had a great take on it. So we'll round it out with his thoughts. But we also will then say, welcome to the new Pope, an American Pope, and we wish him well in this new position. And we know that it's a big one. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll turn our attention over to the Supreme Court because Kristi Noem is now submitting an application to Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. And this one is involving the Venezuelan TPSers, the temporary protected status. Remember, Joe Biden gave like 500,000 people essentially lawful status in America. Trump seeking to undo that. A lower level judge issued a bad ruling. And so now D. John Sauer is taking us up to the Supreme Court. So we'll go through that. We'll see what is happening there because they submitted a nice filing today. And we had a little bit of a clip of Chief Justice Roberts, who was out last night having a conversation. And so we got this clip of him talking about what the judiciary is supposed to do since, you know, he runs it. So we'll come back on that, all in the Supreme Court. Then we got a little Kash Patel update because there was a spicy interchange today between Kash and Senator John Kennedy. And what we see here is a 5-minute exchange that ultimately culminates in a very important question to Kash. Who killed Epstein? And Kash is going to give us an answer, which is going to be very interesting to hear. So we'll go through that. We also had more on this topic of Epstein because Kash, he answered a couple questions about some other topics today. But Pam Bondi was out earlier this week, and she said that they've got thousands of videos, okay? Thousands of videos. And this is going to be obviously a big thing in the Diddy case because his entire operation was basically set up just like Epstein's was. So we'll come back on that. We'll see what happened with Kash. And also Kristi Noem was also getting into this with Senator Van Hollen, but that'll probably be better in the Supreme Court segment. So we'll move it over there. But anyways, this is where we'll wrap it up on the day with Tish, big Letitia out of New York. Man, she is getting in trouble. There's been a lot of smoke on this, and now there's fire, baby. FBI opens up a formal investigation of big Tish James out in New York. She calls herself Tish, okay? It's not us. And now what we'll see is that The Guardian is reporting they have actually impaneled a federal grand jury, and they're presenting evidence. Oh, Tish, not happy with this news. And so they're calling this a political attack, blah, blah, blah. Now, the taxpayers of New York might have to pay the bill for defending Tishy Poo, which is ridiculous. But we'll wrap it up with Tish, round it out, dig into Tish at the final segment, you know, all that coming up and more. And so, as I mentioned, schedule change tomorrow. So we'll be back quick tomorrow morning, 12 noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. We'll close out the week. Then on Saturday, Membos come back. We're going to do meatballs with Mama. We just bought, I think, 60 Roma tomatoes today. Maybe more, 80, something like that. I don't know. But it's going to be great. We're going to cook meatballs, and it's going to be fun on Saturday. So that's the Saturday plan. So membos, stick around for that, and you're going to meet Mama Meatball Extraordinaire if you haven't met her already. So thanks for becoming membos. Membos, we'll see you next one on Saturday. So one stream tomorrow, then we'll be back on Saturday to get into it. It's going to be fun. All right, now, without any further ado, let's get to it on the day. Here is the latest. America has a pope, a new pope for the world, but he comes from America. This is unusual, the first time ever that we've seen this happen. And his name is officially now Pope Leo the 14th. I had to double check my Roman numerals on that one to calculate it all. But I think we got it right. But he is now going to be the leader of the Catholic Church. And so this was a big moment today. President Trump has already come out and congratulated him, said, congratulations to Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who was just named Pope. It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope. What excitement and what a great honor for our country, no doubt. I look forward to meeting Pope Leo the 14th. It will be a very meaningful moment. And it was. And on the Membo stream this morning, we were waiting for him to come out, and he's here. So now we know who he is. Now, Trump was also asked about this, and Trump was jamming busy today. He was all over the place. But he popped out, took a question on this, and here's what he said.
Are you planning to meet the Pope in the near future?
Mr. President.
They've already called. When is that? Do you have a time in mind?
They have already spoken to us, and we'll see what happens.
All right, so Trump will go and meet with the Vatican, obviously very busy there, or they'll come meet with him or whatever happens. But they've already connected and spoken out. And here was the scene when he came out today, out after the vote was heard. So a pretty momentous moment. Here is what it looked like. All right, big deal for about 1.5 billion people and more. And then he came out and he spoke a little bit, and here is what some of that sounded like.
Must be a single peoples, always living in peace. Thanks to Pope Francis. And I would also like to thank all my brother cardinals who have chosen me to be the successor of Peter and to walk together with you as a united church, always trying to find peace, justice, and always trying to work as men and women faithful to Jesus Christ, without fear, and to proclaim the evangel, and also to be missionaries.
Amen. Thank you, Pope, for that. So momentous day and a historic day, obviously, and there's a lot of reaction coming out in response to this. Robert Francis Prevost, who is now Pope Leo the 14th, posted this on X today, said, I am excited and moved. I hope I am worthy of the task that has been entrusted to me. And so, yeah, that happened. Then here's some more photos from the son. You can see a little bit more about him. He's known as Father Bob, stepped out onto the balcony in the Vatican, cheering crowds. He shouted, peace be with you to everybody there. You can see the American flag there held nice and beautifully by those two gentlemen. Shout out to those bros. All the cardinals there. Here is the white smoke rises. Some people were waiting for the orange smoke, but it was white. Says the Chicago-born Pope, Chicago, was announced after Cardinal Momberti declared habemus papam, Latin for we have a pope. Leo XIV's life saw him start out as an altar boy, studied math, joined the church, spent much of the years as a missionary working in South America. The boy from the U.S. has now climbed the highest summit in the Catholic Church, being seen as God's messenger on earth. His election saw him come from being a total outsider with odds of 66-1 before he is now the Pope. And we were looking at the poly markets, and there were other two popes that were way ahead of him. He is seen as more traditional than the last pope, but not the conservative hardliner some in the church were hoping for after Pope Francis. The new pontiff urged people to build bridges through dialogue, through encounter, and to come together as one pope before paying homage to Francis. The new pope said, together we must find out how to be a church that builds bridges, establishes dialogues, and the other things, and gave some shout outs. Trump came out, said, what an exciting thing. Keir Starmer, our friends in the UK, we're friends again with our friends in the UK now. We got a trade deal with them, has branded the election as a momentous moment. Looking forward to meeting the Holy Father and continuing to work closely with the Catholic Church. What'd Zelensky say? He said, Ukraine deeply values the Holy See's consistent position in upholding international law. Zelensky, bro, can you take 2 seconds off for like 2 seconds and just not make it about you for 2 seconds, dude? Condemning the Russian Federation's military aggression against Ukraine and protecting the rights of innocent civilians. Like, all right, Zelensky. Typical. At this decisive moment, okay, he goes on, because we need more money. Probably wants $1 billion from them. All right, $100 billion from them. So lots of American flags out there, man. And that is very nice to see an American at the helm of the Catholic Church. So shout out to our fellow Catholics out there on this day. Now, not everybody's happy about this election. Some people have pointed this out. They say, this dude has some really problematic tweets in his past, and we don't really like him. Saying he was just elected 267th Pope. They have resurfaced. Prevost previously shared tweets condemning Trump for his position on illegal immigration, and he also wanted to act on climate. Oh no! So he's posted something like this, right? Reposted this. This dude Rocco Palmo said, saying Trump's bad hombres line. This is from 2017, so they're old. Bad hombres line fuels racism and nativism. California bishop sends a preemptive blast on the DACA repeal. All right. So he posted that back, he reposted that in 2017. Said, I stand with dreamers and all people who are working toward an immigration system that is fair, just, and moral. Well, I wonder what he thinks about Kilmore right now. So we also saw this. He reposted, it looks like a climate change, garbage, nonsense, hashtag, whatever, act on climate. Reposted that. So a couple of those posts about it, and some people are saying, okay, here we go again, going to turn into a woke pope, and this is not going to be good. But Charlie Kirk dug into it as well and shared, our Turning Point Action Team pulled the voting history for Pope Leo. He's a registered Republican. He's voted in Republican primaries when not even living abroad. And our data shows he's a strong Republican and he's pro-life. And you can see this, right? Robert Prevost, Republican, voted a couple times, couple primaries, yes, mostly voted, didn't vote, but voted as a Republican in a bunch of these things. And so I think all of that, is just interesting details. Now, as we've seen here, there's a phenomenon that happens with people where once they get into a certain position, right, the demands of that position require them to elevate themselves to a higher level, to a higher status, right? You might call it a divine intervention or orchestration or something. But strange things happen, right? We've talked about this before. A lot of people had questions about J.D. Vance, to use a political analogy. They said, well, J.D. Vance, he's kind of, wishy-washy, whatever, not that exciting. Turns out you put him in this position, he rises to the occasion. I think same thing can be said of Marco Rubio. Other people don't, right? Other people are like, thought you're going to release those files. But for the most part, people can rise to the occasion and really become legendary figures in the right environments. And so that's, I think, where we're kind of hoping this goes. That's our default position on this, is that hopefully once the responsibilities of the church come into true fruition for him in this new position, he is inspired and divinely inspired to do the right things. Now, Matt Walsh, I think, had really the most sober take that I've seen on this as a Catholic myself. He says, if you aren't Catholic, then you don't believe that this Pope was elected through the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So you'll troll his Twitter feed and analyze his selection through a modern political lens, right? As though it's like a president or something, as like he was just elected to a seat of the U.S. Senate rather than the chair of St. Peter. Now, if you are a believing Catholic, then you do or should believe that his election is ordained by God. You view it through the lens of 2,000 years of church history and the eternal will of the Almighty God. From that perspective, playing the gotcha game with old tweets, silly and bizarre, this is why any conversation about the Pope on this site is destined to be disjointed, confused, and ultimately useless. And he's just saying, essentially, where I'm at on this. For my own impression, and someone who is in the second category, is that there are some good signs and bad signs with this new Pope. I want to see what he actually does with the papacy before I have any kind of judgment. If he does things I don't like, I'll say it, as I did with Francis. In the meantime, I'll pray for him in the church. And yeah, and I think that is a good take. I think that obviously the Pope has a lot of impact on a lot of things, but in America, right, we're concerned about our American government. If the Pope comes in here and starts interfering with American government and starts trying to climatize us or something, there'll be the proper pushback on the Pope, right? Because that's not a biblical teaching, right? As far as I can tell. But to each person's practice and their Catholicism, I think some people might be a little bit more, in alignment with whatever the Pope says. But I think that free-thinking people, the Pope is a very powerful position as a messenger of God, but simultaneously it's a separate entity than the American government. So they are not one and the same. So I think it's a good take, and we're excited to see where this goes. I think it is interesting that we have an American Pope now, and whatever that carries with it will soon be seen. And so shout out to everybody who's weighing in on this. It's certainly an exciting time, regardless of where you fall on this, regardless of what your religion is on this. We've got an American in this position, and that's historic, regardless where you fall. All right, so that's the Pope update. Now let's turn our attention over to the Supreme Court of the United States of America, because we are back in SCOTUS. President Trump now back in the Supreme Court, asking them to allow him to, be the president. He wants to eliminate temporary protected status for 500,000 illegals that Joe Biden brought into the country. He says, well, they're not actually illegal because we gave them temporary protected status. And we made this carve out in the law that allows our government to just funnel people in here hand over fist. Well, now D. John Sauer, the Solicitor General for the Trump DOJ, is going to the Supreme Court. The case involves Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security, and this one person called Svetlana Doe sued to say, you can't cancel our status. How dare you try to get control of your own country? This is ridiculous. We're in charge. So they submitted this application here from the DOJ, from Trump, up into the Supreme Court. And you can see this is fresh out of the oven, getting docketed May 8th, submitted to Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the very talkative Supreme Court justice, who is the most recent addition. And we've got a response due 1 week from today. So there is some action on it. And here's what D. John Sauer said. He wrote to them. He says, all right, listen, Supreme Court, I don't know how many times we got to be here. It'd be nice if you guys did something about this for once in your lives, but we're here. Now, what we're asking for is for you to correct a recent destabilizing trend in immigration cases that we've seen happen a lot. The Immigration and Nationality Act gives Kristi Noem broad discretion over a lot of things. Now, specifically, it allows her to grant parole to aliens on a case-by-case basis. Oh, you're under attack with your pupusa business? Okay, great. Urgent humanitarian reasons, or if there's a significant public benefit, she can grant parole. And it also permits, if she can grant it, then she can revoke it whenever the purposes of such parole shall, in the opinion of the Secretary of Homeland Security, been served. Now, the previous administration granted parole, that's Biden, categorically to aliens from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Just said, oh, no, you're all good. Oh, you're in danger. Whoa, what's happening? That led to 532,000 aliens in the United States. So you can't really call them illegals, really, because Joe Biden is illegal. Basically, he was an illegal president who just violated the spirit and the letter of the law and granted 500,000 people entry into our country. Now, on March 25th, then, Kristi Noem, Secretary Noem, came in. She revoked it. It was a categorical grant. He didn't do this on a case-by-case basis. It was unlawful for him to do that, so she revoked it. She did reserve the discretion to make case-by-case exceptions and would do that as needed. Now, the district court nevertheless held that the secretary lacked the authority to revoke the categorical grant of parole. So you can't do that. You can't go through this without an individualized case-by-case consideration for every single one of them, okay? Joe Biden didn't grant them access case-by-case. He just said, oh, come on in. Bring your fentanyl with you. Who cares? So he didn't do that. So why do we have to undo it that way? It then issued a de facto permanent injunction stopping Kristi Noem. In doing so, the lower level judge engaged in the very review that Congress said they cannot do. They upended critical immigration policies that are carefully calibrated to deter illegal entry. They vitiated core executive branch prerogatives, and they undid the democratically approved policies of our last election. Now, this court, you, Supreme Court, talking to you, Ketanji, should stay this lower level judge's order. Now, as a general matter, how this works normally, an alien who arrives in the United States and cannot demonstrate admissibility is either removed promptly or detained pending removal proceedings. You don't just generally get to run free in the country unless you're in the last administration where they don't care. Now, the law, the INA, it does say that in limited circumstances, the secretary, called Kristi Noem, may parole such an alien. That means release that person to allow them to be in the United States temporarily. But that parole authority is purely discretionary, okay? The secretary may, it says there, right there, quoting it, may, in italics, in her discretion, parole an alien applying for admission. It says in her or his discretion, and may terminate that parole when the purpose of the parole shall, in the opinion of the secretary, have been served, right? So the judge can't turn around and say, well, you already gave it to them, so now you can't take it away. Yes, we can. It's in the law. It says that. They wrote it down, and she has the sole discretion to do it. Now, the law clearly bars judicial review. Judges can't do this. It says in the law, notwithstanding any other provision of the law, no court shall have jurisdiction to review any other decision or action, the authority for which is specified under the law under Homeland Security. So what we saw is from 2022 and 2025, these treasonous monsters called Secretary Mayorkas granted 2-year terms of parole to 532,000 illegal aliens. I'm going to continue to call them illegal because what Mayorkas did was, I would say, illegal to the spirit of the law. From Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. They called them special parole programs. He relied on categorical migration and country rationales. He said, well, if we encourage aliens from those countries to use parole, then it's going to deter surges at the border, right? That was their rationale. They said, well, if we just let them flood in and give them like temporary protection, then they won't flood in at the border. You're like, wait a minute, what? So you're going to prevent the leaking of the boat by poking another hole somewhere else? What? We got too many illegals coming in illegally at the border. Quick, let's bring them in illegally on an airplane. It's the dumbest thing you've ever heard. Why don't you just say, well, so it's like doubling the pain, right? But they used it as a justification. Oh, we have to bring them in. Otherwise, they're going to come across at the border. Well, they are coming across at the border. So stop bringing them in this way. He was clear that parole could be summarily terminated. He even said that. His notices creating those programs, he wrote it. He said, the secretary retains the sole discretion to terminate this process at any point. So if Mayorkas can do it, so can Kristi. Homeland may terminate parole in its discretion at any time. Well, Kristi's doing that now. So reviewing the results of those mass parole programs, Trump concluded that they had best traded an unmanageable population of unlawful illegals at the southwest border for an additional complication by bringing them in. Neither place do they have a clear path to durable status. It's an invasion either way you do it. If you let them in, it's an invasion. If they come across illegally, it's an invasion. So stop it. In March 2025, Kristi Noem thus exercised her discretion to terminate the parole of aliens who had been granted parole under the CHNV programs, but reserved the authority to grant case-by-case exceptions. Now, in addition to observing that those parole programs had not accomplished their stated aims, the secretary emphasized that the programs had exacerbated backlogs or risked creating bigger backlogs for the entire immigration system. And they had major impacts. And they contravened Trump and the American people who just elected Trump and his immigration policy. She said there are significant gaps in the vetting process. There is massive fraud. We suspended certain portions of this as well. And our rescission should have been the end of the matter. Okay. We have the discretion to do it. The fact that we did it should have ended the conversation. Congress specifically reserved those decisions exclusively to the secretary. She weighed the factors and rendered her decision. And now you can't have some hack district court judge intervene. Instead, what she did is she certified a class of all aliens in the United States, all the people who got parole. She said, you all count. And though the INA, the law, expressly prohibits her from reviewing parole determinations, she did. She said that that bar was inapplicable. She said, well, I can look because the secretary can't use that law because she exceeded her authority. Now, even though the law gives Kristi Noem broad discretion to terminate, like it's in there for cost-cutting reasons or cross-cutting reasons, the judge insisted that terminating parole must be done on a case-by-case basis. It must go alien by alien, no matter that the programs that Kristi terminated extended parole en masse, right? So what they're saying, once the right to stay, once that temporary status vests, then they're going to say, oh, you've given them a due process right. So before you take that away, you got to jump through all these hoops. See how that works? So they can break into your house. They can steal everything of yours. If you want to kick them out, then you have to go and file a claim and prove it somewhere and show that they have no lawful basis to be here for 500,000 people, which is basically the entire state of Wyoming. So the First Circuit denied the government's motion to stay this. Trump said, you can't make us do this. We're not going to do that. The court refused to decide whether the termination of parole was immune to judicial review, just saying that, they just kind of kicked it out, right? First Circuit, pathetic. So the Supreme Court and your immediate intervention is now warranted. The district court is nullified, one of our most consequential immigration policy decisions. They have revoked Kristi Noem's decision to terminate parole for 532,000 aliens. Not only that, the court's rationale for disregarding Congress's clear bar saying you can't step in and interfere on this is saying we can. And if you allow this to happen, Supreme Court, it's going to enable wholesale evasion of all the laws, and they're going to do this wherever they want. Now, further, the district court's reasoning that parole revocations, revocation is different. You can grant it to everyone, but if you're going to take it away, you got to do it individually. They say it contradicts the plain statute of the law, all right? It is a perverse one-way ratchet. Mayorkas granted parole categorically, just said, you all get it. But the court faulted only Kristi Noem's decision to restore the traditional case-by-case process by undoing the prior categorical grant. But the law prescribes the exact opposite, okay? It says literally that you can grant parole only on a case-by-case basis, right? So in other words, Mayorkas broke the law. They're quoting it. It's here, 8 U.S. Code 1182 2D5A. The secretary may grant parole only on a case-by-case basis for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. There is no benefit. But the secretary may terminate parole whenever, in her opinion, the purposes of such parole have been served. Okay, it's done. Like, in other words, the hurricane's over. Go home. Your emergency's over. Your pupusa attacks are over. See you back home. But Mayorkas inverted that. And the judge is trying to do the same. In any event, agencies routinely make case-by-case determinations by applying uniform criteria to all individuals. And that's what the secretary did here. And the judge at the lower court, and her indefinite halt of this revocation irreparably harms the government, all right? The court's order blocks the executive branch from exercising its discretionary authority over a key aspect of immigration policy and foreign policy, and it thwarts Congress's express vesting of that decision to Kristi Noem and not to the judges. And further, Trump, the government, and America has a strong interest in expeditiously removing aliens who lack a lawful basis to be here, but the order stymies our efforts by requiring individualized parole determinations for every one of the 532,000 parolees, which of course would be a colossal undertaking. That's the point. If it's so big and colossal, they're not going to be able to do it. If Homeland cannot terminate parole until the 2-year period is up, Homeland also faces the prospect of foregoing expedited removal and undergoing full-bore removal proceedings for each alien, which would tax an already overburdened immigration system, right? This is the point. They want the systems to break. And if the systems break, then the courts can't process anybody, and then everybody stays. Finally, delaying the termination risks undermining the government's ability to conduct foreign policy. We got time-sensitive negotiations and more. But on the other side of the ledger, these illegals, the respondents cannot claim any cognizable harm, okay? They accepted their parole status with full awareness. This was temporary and revocable at any time. And so the Supreme Court should put an end to this recent and destabilizing trend in these immigration cases and stay this judge's decision in full. And here's more background on this. So zooming in a little bit more detail, this full thing is not 77 pages, but there is more. Saying in late 2022 and early 2023, Homeland created a special program, right? That was all Mayorkas and some of the worst people ever to be in charge. For each program, Homeland cited categorical reasons, right? General migration, that's all. We're going to reduce irregular migration by invading them in and eliminate the burden on criminal smuggling networks and all of those things. And so they granted an onslaught. Then Trump came in, boom, January 20th, executive order, said not anymore. Issued an executive order reversing all of it. Homeland came out, issued their order. She published a notice in the Federal Registrar and said, we're ending this. We retain our discretion to commence enforcement. You've got notice, and now you know. The secretary acknowledged that the reliance interest of parolees and potential future program beneficiaries and more, but she found, right, so she considered everything. So don't act like she was just acting with haste. She found those individuals knew that parole was discretionary and that the programs could be terminated at any time, and it was in America's interest to do it. So she did it. So then what happened is 23 people sued. They said, you can't do this. We have rights. The district court then entered a class-wide stay, right? You're all of you non-citizens now suddenly get process rights. You have a class. She said that they're going to win under the APA, which is ridiculous. She said that one of the secretary's justifications for terminating the parole was on a legal error. And second, she said that because parole may be granted only on a case-by-case basis, termination of parole must also be individualized, but that's not what the statute says. She found that respondents would be irreparably harmed if you terminate them early. They would have to leave the country on their own, or they would have to await removal proceedings, and said, you guys can wait. So you can just wait 2 years and they can stay and do whatever they want because they're better than you. You're an American, maybe watching the show, or some other foreign citizen, of course, but American citizens, we voted. We elected a president and a Congress to make these changes. We don't want to wait 2 years. That's why we elected people now. So she just, well, you can wait, and the illegals have more rights than you do. Okay, so we made the decision. Their status is revoked. We don't have general migration problems. Border's fine, by the way. Border as secure as can be. We didn't need any stupid bill from Senator Langford from Oklahoma. We got it figured out. Thank you, Tom Homan and Trump. So now, since we don't need to invade them via airplane and Uber illegals, they're not going to come across the southern border. So the basis of the whole program is moot. It's canceled. We don't need it anymore. But you have to keep it because they're more privileged than you. You don't even control your country anymore. This judge and the non-citizens do. The First Circuit denied a stay. Now, Trump says, totally ridiculous. You incorrectly asserted jurisdiction. First of all, Judge, you have no power to even look at Kristi Noem's decisions. You cannot adopt a narrow reading of the bar to your jurisdiction. It says, literally, Judge, like, how can you read? It says, no court shall have jurisdiction to review this. It's very clear. Now, neither the respondents nor this judge disputed that the law reserves parole termination to the secretary's discretion. Nobody's disputing that because they can't. Other courts agree, and they've held that these discretionary revocations are literally unreviewable. You can't even look at it, citing cases. But the district court ignored it, sidestepped the rules and the plain text and said, I do have jurisdiction because the statute cannot be read to give the secretary this discretion to terminate parole because it's individual. It needs to be individual. Now, that is doubly wrong. First, it doesn't forbid categorical terminations. We already explained that. And even if it did, it still precludes judicial review. Again, that provision bars judicial review when the authority for that action is in the secretary's discretion. If she can do it, then she can do it. That provision thus focuses on whether the statute provision grants discretion over particular decisions, not the manner in which she exercises those decisions. Here, the law plainly says Kristi Noem has the authority to revoke parole. That's what she did. And she can base it on her opinion. Now, that is about as a discretionary of a grant as you can get. Even if she were to exercise that discretion improperly, Congress specified that the authority to revoke is within her discretion. So you can't say you have jurisdiction because you're literally barred under the law. Now, they tell the Supreme Court, her reasoning to the contrary would nullify what is in the statute. That bar would apply only where a court first determines that she acted lawfully, not where she thinks they violated the INA. But the bar is supposed to foreclose review of actions within her discretion, not induce courts to review the lawfulness of those actions to decide when it's foreclosed. The courts below ignored this fundamental point. They suggested instead that the jurisdictional bar might not apply because they allegedly challenged the legality of policies and processes governing discretionary decisions under the INA. What? But there is no overarching policy or process separate or distinct from that. So, in other words, it's like they're challenging Trump's interpretation of the law or the policy surrounding the law rather than challenging the law. Because if they challenge the law, they're going to lose. The law says she can do this. It's right there. It's in writing. So they can't sue to challenge that. So they got to challenge this other thing. It's like the legality of the policies and the processes. What? Okay. Well, she has discretionary decisions, but the decisions are impacted by the policies. And so we're challenging those because you can't challenge the discretionary decision. So it's very convoluted. She says, but they write to the SCOTUS. They say, but there is no overarching policy or process that is separate from this. The secretary acted to end the parole programs entirely, not to promulgate some other policies or procedures. She's doing what the law says. She's using U.S. code to terminate it, not some other decision. It's all based right there in the law. But the district court relied on a presumption of judicial review, saying, I presume that I can look at this, right? Courts generally want to look at things. When you tell judges you can't look at that, they generally don't take kindly to that. Here, Congress clearly and convincingly directed that no court shall have jurisdiction to review. So it says it, Judge, like, I'm sorry, but it's in there. And that jurisdictional bar applies to you. Where parole determinations are concerned, nothing in the relevant immigration statutes at issue here suggests that Congress wanted the courts to improperly second guess the president's Article 2 judgment with respect to American foreign policy and foreign relations. Judge Kavanaugh wrote that in 2022. All the evidence points the other way, which means against review, meaning this judge can't substitute her opinion for Kristi Noem's. Now, separately, they are suing under the APA, the Administrative Procedure Act, which is like their catch-all. But the secretary's termination is also unreviewable under that. The APA does not authorize judicial review when agency action is committed to agency discretion, right? If the agency lawfully has the discretion to make that decision, you can't sue them for that. Or when the statutes preclude judicial review, like it does here. Now, this is a statute that says the courts can't look at it, so you can't look at it, and you can't sue under the APA because the APA says you can't. Now, the district court instead reasoned that a decision to categorically terminate parole is not within her discretion, right? Saying, well, the law says you can't categorically do it. And so therefore, I don't have to follow. Therefore, I can review you because the law says you can't do that thing. But that simply repeats the court's mistaken view that you have to do terminations on a case-by-case basis. You can. The lower level mistaken judge said that the law establishes standards for termination of parole, which would mean on a case-by-case basis in her interpretation. But the court's ellipsis elided the key phrase in the statute. Okay, so you see what this little sneaky judge did? There's, like these judges, man, supposed to be honest and full of integrity and all this crap. Judge, you're just getting called out, man. This is good lawyering by the Trump DOJ. The judge wrote this, right? See this little ellipsis here, these 3 dots, ... She left out a key part of this. She says, well, the law, quote, here's what the law says, establishes standards for termination of parole by requiring a determination by the secretary that the purposes of the parole, ... have been served. Left out that key. Well, what was in there? So the judge is going to insert due process in here or something. Like you have to go case by case. You have to give notice. What does she want a case by case analysis for? Because that's a hearing, right? Essentially, got to look at it. Somebody's got to sign a box. They got to get notice that you're making this decision. Then they got the opportunity to be heard, to challenge it. That's a hearing, case by case basis. That's all it means. But we don't have to do that, because what the judge cut out of this, because she's dishonest, is this key phrase. In the opinion of the secretary. Oh, that gives Kristi Noem the power, not courts, not hearings, not all the other things, with authority and discretion to decide whether the purposes of the parole has been served. It's extremely dishonest. Thank you for calling her out. There are no judicially manageable standards for courts to review, okay? It is the secretary's opinion. The U.S. Code says so. Wow. Now, the district court's reliance, this dishonest judge, so I can rely on this case, that's misplaced. That case involved what the court called a program for conferring affirmative immigration relief. And here, the government has never argued that these parole programs are non-enforcement policies. Judicial review is barred because it says so in the law. Now, even if the secretary's decision were reviewable, the government is still going to win because the district court misread the parole and the expedited removal statutes. Indeed, the court's reading produces an extraordinarily perverse result. Though the previous administration granted parole on a categorical basis under Mayorkas to over 500,000 aliens, non-citizens, this administration cannot revoke parole unless we do it individually, case by case. Now, to start, the district court made a mistake. They erred in concluding that the statute imposes a case-by-case basis requirement. The statute explicitly says the opposite. It literally requires case-by-case determinations for granting parole, providing the secretary with certain exceptions. In her discretion, parole into the United States may prescribe only on a case-by-case basis for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit, all right? But the removal contains no parallel language with respect to termination. It doesn't say that at all. It says only that when the purposes of such parole shall, in the opinion of the secretary, have been served, then the alien shall be returned to the custody from which he was paroled. Back out, right? It's like the exact opposite. The court inverted it. Congress's inclusion of a case-by-case limitation when granting it, but not terminations, shows you it doesn't need to be individualized. Like they know what a case-by-case individualized basis is. They put it in the incoming, but not on the outgoing. Saying where Congress includes particular language, you should say that they mean what they said. For good reason. Many conceivable grounds exist for terminating parole may apply to more than just one parolee. For instance, let's think about it. How about a change in geopolitical conditions? That might eliminate the urgent humanitarian reasons. Oh yeah, their pupusas are all fine now. Thank you, Nayib Bukele. Go home. Or the secretary may determine that all aliens paroled solely because of a shortage should be redetained once the new detention facility becomes available. Now here, one independently sufficient ground for terminating parole is that those programs granted parole to hundreds of thousands of aliens without any case-by-case determination. Like that alone. Requiring the secretary to make a case-by-case determination to terminate was granted on a categorical basis, that would overburden the system by design, obviously. But the lower level judge, she says that you have to do this individually, but the reasoning lacks merit. And it proves too much. Countless provisions, not to mention the statutes, use the singular rather than the plural. And you can even read the dictionary definitions about how all this works. Case-by-case basis is incoming. But regardless, the INA, even if they impose some sort of a case-by-case basis during terminations, that wouldn't stop Secretary from establishing generally applicable criteria that she could apply to everybody. Even when Congress does require individual determinations, it doesn't displace their authority to make these decisions, which is what they're saying this is. Longstanding regulations take that approach, and this court and others have repeatedly said that generally applicable determinations are appropriate in the immigration context. And this was not arbitrary and capricious either. So D. John Sauer writes to the Supreme Court saying, the district court also made a mistake in concluding that Kristi Noem acted arbitrarily. She called it, the lower level judge, obvious legal error. What? One of the reasons Kristi Noem gave for terminating this parole in 30 days rather than 2 years is because we don't want him here for 2 years. And we don't want long, drawn-out removal proceedings. But this court concluded that they're not subject to expedited removal, and that's not available. And the court interpreted that language to mean that any alien who's ever been paroled is categorically immune from expedited removal. But that's not correct. Saying an alien whose parole has been terminated, in other words, we can get rid of these people pretty quickly. And her rationale for doing so is legitimate. But if you think she made a mistake in that rationale, that error doesn't justify halting the parole terminations because she's got other bases for this. And the humanitarian basis has also been vacated. Even the district court acknowledged that her decision rested on many factors. So if you don't like one, she's got 5 more. But she improperly dismissed all of those other reasons. And so the Supreme Court, you should grant this and accept our claim. We're going to win. There is irreparable harm that is happening on the people. The president is a representative of the people, and we have a substantial interest in having our policies carried out. These concerns escalate where some judge issues an injunction that undermines the executive branch and interferes with America. So by disregarding a congressional law that tells this judge, you cannot do this, she encroached on Congress as well, right? So she's saying, I don't care what Congress says I can do. I'm going to do it anyways. I don't care what Trump says I can do. I'm going to do it anyways. I'm the president now. The irreparable harm here is acute. The lower level judge's order stymies the government's ability to terminate parole grants that the secretary has determined undermine U.S. interest, and it inhibits the government's pursuit of its foreign policy goals. And the court entirely discounted those harms on the grounds that it is not in the public interest to summarily declare 500,000 people no longer lawful. Well, it's going to be a big problem. It's like 500,000. Yeah, we know. Neither ground has merit. It's not your decision, right? This is the judge saying, wow, that's going to be a big problem if we do that. Well, that's not your decision to make. Kristi Noem made that decision. We know what's going to happen. Neither ground is sufficient. Now, the Constitution and the INA grant the secretary and the political branches of the court of the task of deciding whether it's in the public interest to allow 532,000 aliens who were never admitted into this country, who are paroled en masse, who have not been inspected to remain in the country. She says it's a big deal if we say you all got to go. We say it's a big deal if you all stay. She says my decision is better than yours. We say you're a judge. You don't get to substitute your judgment for ours. As to the second, Kristi Noem explained at length in her assessment that our foreign policy approach is more consistent with this decision. She explained that any delay in terminating these programs would undermine the ability to conduct foreign policy with foreign nations, saying U.S. policy has changed in critical respects with regard to these. We're no longer taking everybody's people in context of time-sensitive and high-stakes negotiations. Now, on top of all of that, the lower level judge also improperly encroaches on one of the executive branch's key functions, which is managing the immigration system. The order contravenes the government and the public's strong interest in quickly removing aliens who don't have a lawful basis in our country. The order also effectively compels Homeland to place a greater proportion of this population in removal proceedings to effectuate their removal, which is going to overburden the system even more. Now, she's ignoring a judicial prohibition on her power, legislative power on prohibition on her judicial power, and stiffen it to Congress too. She attempted to minimize those harms by observing that the order does not itself authorize the entry of the aliens. Well, I'm not like giving them lawful status here. You kind of are, but we extensively considered their alliance interests. Like we know what's going to happen when they're all revoked. They're not going to be happy. There's going to be all sorts. It's going to be not happy, but we know. Making individualized determinations for 532,000 people would be enormously burdensome. It's tantamount to permanently enjoining any termination of the programs. Okay, so in other words, like there's no way you're going to do 532,000 trials. It's effectively hamstringing the whole thing. Now, on the flip side, this would not harm them. All of them are on parole. It's discretionary. They all knew it. They all knew it could be revoked at any time. Mayorkas repeatedly admonished them, said, we can terminate this at any time, and we might. Some class members may have already obtained immigrant or non-immigrant status and would thus suffer no meaningful harm. Like if they've already worked through the system, they're fine. But the termination of parole is not equivalent to a final removal order. They can still seek asylum. They can still assert their claims and more. But when lower courts, Supreme Court, have disregarded Congress's commands under the law, violating Congress's rights, and usurp the executive branch's power, violating the executive and Trump's rights and our rights, this court has not hesitated to intervene and repeatedly granted complete or partial stays of nationwide orders. And they cite them here. Did one there, did one here, did one over here. And you should do the same now. Writing to the Supreme Court of the United States, D. John Sauer, saying this court should stay the district court's order. Respectfully submitted into SCOTUS. So sending in, it looks like a copy of the judge's final order here, which sounds like it's just horrible. And she just, the law's, funny because you can really find a path to whatever you want. And if you're a political partisan hack who just takes an oath and swears to uphold the Constitution, and you don't really mean it because you got your fingers crossed behind your back and whatever, Constitution, then you can do whatever you want, as this judge has done. But we're hopeful the Supreme Court comes in here and settles this down. Now, our friend Jack Posobiec had a clip here of John Roberts, the Chief Justice, when he was seated having a conversation clipped over from CNN. Here's what John Roberts was saying out hitting the media.
In our Constitution, judges and the judiciary is a co-equal branch of government, separate from the others, with the authority to interpret the Constitution as law and strike down, obviously, acts of Congress or acts of the president. And that innovation doesn't work if it's not, the judiciary is not independent. Its job is to obviously decide cases, but in the course of that, check the excesses of Congress or of the executive, and that does require a degree of independence.
Yeah, it does require a degree of independence. It's true. We do have three separate but co-equal branches of government. It's pretty basic, similar to how the executive is independent and deserves its independence, and how Congress is independent and deserves its independence, which is why all of these pseudo agencies that kind of live independently of Congress, live independently of the executive branch, and nobody has real control over. That's why all of those are unconstitutional. And a lot of what we've seen happen in these injunctions have emanated from cases just like that, saying, you can't fire me. I'm at the Merit Service Protection Board. Like, the hell, where do you live? I'm independent. No, you're not. And a lot of these decisions were made by these agencies and policies and different interpretations of the law have been perverted. And the executive branch is now clawing that power back. And we're hopeful that John Roberts, if he's going to come out here and tell us that an independent judiciary, hopefully he understands that the reason the judiciary needs to be independent is the same reason the executive branch needs to be independent. Same reason why we can't have judges in his house, your house, John Roberts, who are violating that very balance of power by stepping in and not just saying what the law is and striking down something unconstitutional, but making judgment substitutions by saying, well, if we revoke 500,000 people, that's going to be a problem for the country. No one cares what your opinion is, Judge. You didn't get elected. No one knows what your policy positions are. If you want to run for president, you can run and do that. The law says Noam has the discretion to do it. She's doing it, her discretion. You might disagree with that discretion. That's not your power, so it's illegal. John Roberts can come in and correct this. I hope he does very soon, because we're getting tired of getting lectures about independent judiciary, getting mad about Trump, talking garbage about the judiciary. You guys can have your independence if you honor the independence of the other branches and you stop stealing their powers. Then we'll show some due respect to you. Otherwise, we're going to continue to call out your lying hack judges that you allow to fester, who are political appointees of the Democratic Party, undermining the American people. We're tired of it, John. Do something. All right. So I'll calm down now. All right, let's turn our attention now over to Kash Patel and see what's happening with Kash, because we got into a little spicy exchange here between John Kennedy and Kash Patel. And here's how it went down. Kash Patel asked point blank a very tough question. One we've been asking for a long time here. What happened with Jeffrey Epstein in that cell? Did he really eliminate himself there with that little cloth wrapped around his neck and kind of passed out? Or was there something more there? Because people have questions about security guards who fell asleep or failed to check in, cameras that went off. He was on elimination watch and then taken off elimination watch. Attorneys were questioning this before. Maxwell's questioning this before, saying he's not going to do that. It's ridiculous. So what happened here? Kash has been in charge for quite some time. Pam Bondi said we were going to get our hands on some files that never got released. We got phase one of some garbage. But now the real questions are coming up. Let's see what Kash says in response to Senator Kennedy.
Mr. Director, worry not. We'll make sure your agency is adequately funded. This judge you arrested in Wisconsin, she was breaking federal law, wasn't she?
Yes, that's why we arrested her.
She was helping an illegal immigrant escape being taken into custody. Is that right?
Yes, and the field agents decided to open the case, work the case.
And as Americans, do we get to pick and choose which laws we want to follow?
No,
we do not.
If you're a state court judge, do you get to decide you don't want to follow federal law?
No.
they are.
And if you violate federal law, you get arrested, don't you?
Yes, Senator.
That's called equal treatment under the law, isn't it?
Yes, Senator.
You remember Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, don't you?
Yes, Senator.
FBI lovers.
Mr. Strzok worked for the FBI, Mr. Strzok worked for the FBI. I think Ms. Page worked for Justice. The Inspector General found in its investigation that they hated President Trump and they really wanted Secretary Clinton to win. Is that true?
That's correct, sir.
And this would be the same same Ms. Page who sent an email to Mr. Strzok with whom she was having an affair.
Yeah.
Trump's not ever going to become president, right? Right. And Mr. Strzok with the FBI, senior official at the FBI replied, quote, no, he won't. We'll stop it.
Yep.
Did I read that correctly?
You did, Senator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hangs
Now,
out Jen Psaki.
Ms. Page got quit before she could get fired. Mr. Strzok was fired. And predictably, they filed a lawsuit because in Washington, it's easier to divorce your spouse than it is to fire a federal employee. Why did the FBI give Mr. Strzok $1.2 million and Ms. Page $800,000 to settle a lawsuit?
Senator, I do not know that settlement was reached in the prior administration.
Who made the decision?
The prior Department of Justice.
Who in the prior Department of Justice?
The settlement for that kind of case can only come from the Attorney General, which would be Attorney General Merrick Garland.
So the Attorney General decided to give Mr. Strzok $1.2 million and Ms. Page $800,000 after they were fired after actively interfering in the 2016 election. Is that right?
My understanding is that was a settlement they agreed to.
Pass me the sick bucket, please. The Hunter Biden laptop. In October of 2016, shortly before the election, the New York Post wrote a story that was widely covered talking about Mr. Hunter Biden's influence peddling scheme based on his laptop. A couple of weeks later, Secretary of State, soon to be Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, organized a group of 51 so-called intelligence experts. Had some real rock stars on the list. Jim Clapper, John Brennan, Michael Hayden,
Liar.
Leon Panetta,
Liar.
and they said, oh, no, the story in the New York Post is not true. It's based on Russian disinformation. You remember that?
I do, Senator, as the lead investigator for Russiagate for the House Intel Committee.
Yeah. The FBI had the laptop for 10 months.
Longer than that.
They did, Senator.
So the FBI knew right before the election that it wasn't Russian disinformation, didn't they?
And that was confirmed by the Inspector General's report.
Yeah. Who at the FBI refused to let the FBI tell the American people the truth?
I don't have that name in front of me, sir.
Well, would you look?
I will, sir.
I'd like to know. I'd like a name, not a division. I'd like the name. Person with a brain and a beating heart.
Yes, sir.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Okay.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When you think you'll have it done, Kash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
No.
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So CSAM, obviously we don't want that released into the public, but what else is irrelevant in there? And in the near future, and they've got hundreds or thousands of videos. Now, if this is accurate, if Pam Bondi is being honest here, saying, and sometimes she just rambles off at the mouth, so who knows? Because she said, the Epstein files are on my desk. I'm going, do you have like a U-Haul truck on your desk or something? Like, what are you talking about? The Epstein files? I give you like a manila folder with the Epstein files on my desk. I'm reviewing them. What are you talking about? So we had no idea what she was really talking about. But she said this earlier in the week, saying we've got thousands of videos of Epstein with children or CP, and there are hundreds of victims. Okay, so like it could take, if there are hundreds of victims, and the FBI just ignored all of it, and all the people, or it was all Epstein and he's dead now, so they just don't care and just going to get Ghislaine Maxwell and call it a day. Are you telling me that it's only Epstein on those videos? After all the people who were down there, they only got Epstein. And if that's true, then this is just about victim compliance, right? And we're not worried about additional indictments from other criminal actors, right? Because Epstein's dead. They got Ghislaine. That's the whole thing. So now it's just victim compliance. So I don't know what's taking so long, then. You just got to redact all the victim names. We don't want the videos, if it's that type of video, obviously. But what is it? Are they indictments or what? Here is what Pam Bondi said.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
All right. So if that is true, okay, if there are thousands and thousands of videos, like tens of thousands of videos, you know, first of all, I don't know what we're going to see, but Kash and, you know, I'd like to get, can we get an estimate at least? Like, I understand, yes, it's a big case. It's probably a lot of files, probably a lot of disgusting stuff. Can you give us an estimate? Can near future not be sufficient? Can we just say, you know, by the end of the year, 6 months? Can you give us a target date? Like, you have an idea of the universe of the files, right? So any ideas? All right. So here is more. Kash Patel laced into this woman said, you know, I'm pretty tired of you putting words in my mouth, lady.
Gang cases, 3,000 cases against violent
Well,
criminals
that's not my
doing the work.
question. We know that
Well, you asked if I was weaponizing the FBI, and I am not. I'm giving you the hard, concrete examples of the men and women putting handcuffs on bad people, doing harm to our children and innocent Americans. I do
But
not see
you
weaponization.
have placed on leave FBI employees responsible for the investigation of January 6th. That sounds political to me.
I have not placed anyone on leave who has not violated their ethical obligation or their oath to the
So
Constitution.
if they were investigating January 6th, you believe they were violating an ethic obligation?
Nope. I think the common theme here is you putting words in my mouth, and I'm not going to tolerate it, nor will the men and women of the FBI.
Look at her
Well, you
face.
did.
You see her face on that? She didn't like that one. Look at that right here. Huh? Oh, she's not used to being talked to that way, are you?
I think the common theme here is you putting words in my mouth, and I'm not going to tolerate it, nor will the men and women of the FBI.
No.
Well, you did place on leave an analyst responsible for investigating Russia's meddling in the 2016 election. Is that politicization? Is that retribution?
No, not if she broke the law or the ethical guidelines. I don't know which case you're talking about, but that's the standard. And we will hold ourselves inwardly accountable, and we will not be strayed from our mission because people think we are politicizing the Bureau. If you want to talk about someone who was attacked by a weaponized Bureau, you're looking at him. And now he's the director of the FBI and he's cleaning it up.
Well, I would just say to everyone who's listening that the FBI needs to be focused on its mission to keep the entire country safe. It should not be weaponized for partisan political gain. Thank you.
We are.
Chairman.
Wow.
Senator Kennedy.
She just got walloped on that one. That was a pretty bad exchange on her part. She had no idea even what to say. Well, I think we should be not weaponized. Okay, that's your standard talking point. You guys weaponized the whole agency for the last 4 years and rounded up innocent Americans as part of your bloodlust. And we're not doing that, but the people who are responsible for that prior bad behavior, they're getting their just desserts. So we'll keep our eye on that. Hopefully we get those records before Senator John Kennedy dies, and hopefully he lives a nice, long, fruitful life. We want to get them before he dies, and we definitely don't want him dying soon. But like if he lives another like 20, 40, 50 years, might be generous, but let's say he lives that long. Are we going to have to wait that long to get the files? Sure hope not. So Kash, Pam, we'll be looking forward to the files. Thanks for picking up the pace over there. All right, so that is what's happening there. Now we got one final update on the day. And then here's what's going on with Tish. Big Tish is in big trouble. Major developments in a criminal probe of her booty. You can see this was being reported that the FBI has opened up a formal investigation into Letitia James, the New York Attorney General. But it's not just a formal investigation, okay? The Guardian is also reporting it's now an impaneled federal grand jury, okay? So they're not just writing police reports and interviewing witnesses. They're presenting it to grand jurors who will be making a decision on charges. Oh, and that is not good for Tishy Poo. You can see the sadness in her eyes. Now, here is the background on this. So a couple of updates. So you can see here, FBI now officially opening a probe. The FBI in Albany has opened a formal criminal investigation examining her real estate mortgage transactions, according to law enforcement sources who were briefed on the matter. Unclear why Pam Bondi is sending this over to the Northern District there in New York, although James Tish is a statewide elected official. Her offices are in Albany. The transactions involve her personal property and loans that were processed in New York City and Virginia, right? So we're keeping our eye on jurisdiction and locations. Some of the transactions also may fall outside of the federal statute of limitations as well. And although one of the mortgages was in Virginia, so we're asking about why are we not in Virginia? One of the mortgage documents filed in connection with the purchase was a single family residence. We had a notarized power of attorney document. It was signed as a witness by somebody called Jennifer Levy, who is the first deputy AG. Wow, been around for a while. A spokesman for James did not immediately respond to a question about why Levy would have been asked to sign a document for a private residence. Like, why would you go get one of your employees to sign for that? Like, what? You need a co-signer who's your employee? What? The document, which James also signed, stated, I hereby declare that I intend to occupy this property as my principal residence in Virginia. We don't live there, though. Under state law, James's principal residence as a statewide elected official must be in New York. And this is being handled at the time by the Maine DOJ and their field office. This was someone saying U.S. Attorney called Joe Sarcone. He oversees the Northern District, saying, we prepared to act in the capacity that we need to if there's a charge to be made. Unlike Tish, who unethically ran around the state campaigning against getting Trump, my office conducts itself in a manner that is proper and professional. Now, after the Times Union published the story online on Thursday, The Guardian, which we'll come to next, they also issued another story saying that in Virginia, okay, so this one is in New York, but there's another district that's also investigating this. Eastern District of Virginia. James has called the allegations baseless. We read through her lawyer, Abby Lowell's whiny letter that was horrible. A spokesman for James on Thursday said that Lowell will be paid from a private legal defense fund and didn't determine where the origin of the money would come from. Now, what was wild about this, too, is that they want New Yorkers to pay for Tish's defense. Albany is sneaking in budget language that would make the taxpayers pay Tishy's legal bills. Wow. Democrats are expected to sign off on a provision allowing certain officials to tap into a $10 million fund to cover any reasonable attorney's fees and expenses incurred, even as part of probes not directly related to their state employment. What a joke. The language is being slipped into New York's operations budget bill, one of several expected to be made public and voted on starting on Wednesday. Multiple sources said the specific language in the bill would apply to James and she could go get that money. New York Republican State Committee Chairman Ed Cox quickly lashed out over the move. He said, this is ridiculous. This is an outrageous abuse of power and a slap in the face to every New Yorker who doesn't want to pay for Big Tish. Writing, this is what corruption looks like in plain sight. Political insiders rigging the system to protect their own while hardworking families get shortchanged. Tish James used her office to wage partisan lawfare against her political opponents, and now New Yorkers are footing the bill. Under New York law, current and state employees can be reimbursed for legal fees to defend themselves in lawsuits over their work. Cuomo used it. Here is what Tish said. Remember in that form? I am going to use this as my principal residence. Womp. Now, but the provision is in the bill is specifically geared to benefit state employees. And while the bill language shared with the Post doesn't mention James, it does say that if it happened, if anything was initiated after January 1st, that means you can tap into it. So Tish wants to get that government money. She said no one's above the law, but now she's going to manipulate the law so she can grift off New York taxpayers to defend her. And that's just the beginning. So a lot of background there, but The Guardian is also reporting. So FBI opens a probe in New York. Meanwhile, there is a grand jury that's being impaneled in Virginia. That's the location of her home. Federal prosecutors have opened up a criminal investigation into Tishy and now are inquiring into Virginia and New York. The investigation is marking a swift and notable escalation against James. She was ordered, or a court ordered Trump to pay $450 million. That was the nipple judge, Engeron Areola. In what appears to be the early stages of a criminal investigation, prosecutors have impaneled a federal grand jury to hear evidence against Tishy in the Eastern District of Virginia after the head of the Federal Housing Agency, William Pulte, last month made a referral to the DOJ. The investigation appears to be multi-pronged, the people said. Involvement of the FBI in New York as well as Virginia. Investigation appears to have gathered pace in recent weeks when Pulte received a request for documents that underpinned his referral. Oh, the dam is breaking. The criminal referral rehashed claims touted online by Trump allies saying Tish committed a bunch of paperwork fraud. Whether the allegations are substantial enough for criminal charges is unclear, but we'll see. She has dismissed the allegations, calling it politically motivated, saying they just cherry-picked a bunch of stuff. And spokespeople for the DOJ didn't want to comment. In a statement, her lawyer, Abby Lowell, criticized the investigations, called them baseless, saying, "This appears to be the political retribution of President Trump threatened to enact. If prosecutors are genuinely interested in the truth, we are prepared to meet false claims with facts." Whatever. We read his letter. Now, the power of attorney was signed by James weeks before the start of the civil fraud trial. Says everybody needs to be living in the state if you're going to run for office, Tish. They've also accused her of obtaining improper financial benefits, saying that she would live in Virginia, got a lower rate by saying it'd be her primary residence. It was not. Real estate lawyers in Virginia said the paperwork was not likely to be an issue unless she misrepresented her intentions. And the criminal referral is accusing her of a bunch. So things are getting spicy over there. And the guy who has been really leading, I think, the charge on this is this guy, Sam E. Antar on X. Highly recommend you follow him and read his work over at whitecollarfraud.com. He shared this today. He says it's just getting worse for her by the day. $41,000 in taxpayer-funded private jet flights with zero supporting documentation. Said our Freedom of Information law request has now hit a wall of silence, he writes. The New York office of the comptroller admits these flights were paid for with taxpayer money, but claims they have no further records. No passenger lists, no destinations, no justifications for why they couldn't fly commercial, just private jets, baby. She's Big Tish. She likes to fly in class. And we know the following. There were 6 charter jets, cost 41 G's, which is like cheap, by the way. Okay. That is very cheap. You got 6 charter flights for $41,000. Try to book a private jet anywhere for 1 hour. See what it costs you. A lot. Zero supporting documentation for any of the flights because she was probably, honestly, going down to Atlanta, Georgia in Fulton County to hang out with Fannie and Nathan, probably. We got multiple flights coinciding with James's campaign events, so probably using that for illegal campaign contributions. No other New York state agency used this charter company. And that alone, like, is a weird thing. All right, as I said. So that's like under 10 G's a flight, right? Give me a break. Where's she going? Even the internal policies governing private jet usage have all vanished. Now, the timing is suspicious here. These records disappeared as soon as federal investigators started looking into her for mortgage fraud. And while basic payment data remains in the financial systems, every document that would explain who flew and why is gone. All gone. Now, this selective record keeping raises alarming questions. Does the New York Attorney General believe the transparency laws she enforces doesn't apply to her? Yes, that's accurate. She does. And so that is from Sam Antar. We're going to repost that at the top of our timeline so you can go read his full breakdown on this over at whitecollarfraud.com. But lots of details, right? Here's what the New York law requires. You got to have documentation on these things. She doesn't. The charter flights all look like this. Venture jets. Here's what has been reported invoice dates. Like you can see somebody's paying for those flights. But what are they for? Is she going to the Bahamas with Nathan? The official records call them travel records, but they couldn't even produce any policies or any records about any of this. We know why. August 10 charter payment occurred on the same day that she reported paying 2 G's for a Martha's Vineyard house rental. So she probably used taxpayer dollars to hop on a private jet to go to Martha's Vineyard with her girlfriends or whatever and had the New Yorkers pay for it. November 8th, 13 G's And so, like, that's a lot, right? So a private jet from New York to Martha's Vineyard, you're getting that for $7,000. Are you kidding me? You're getting a payment. You're getting a private jet for 13 G's down to Puerto Rico. Come on. What's she flying? Well, temporal, it's not just her going with a bunch of people. So you write the whole jet, but still, like, you're getting a one-way trip to Puerto Rico for 13 G's from New York. What? It's got to be a round trip, right? Those prices are ridiculous. While temporal proximity alone doesn't establish that these taxpayer-funded flights were used for campaign purposes, the absence of the documentation makes it impossible to verify. A search of campaign records reveals no reimbursement at all. And they were the exclusive provider, right? Very curious. Venture Jets appears to have an exclusive arrangement with Tish, but not any other agency. Why is that? It becomes more notable when noting that in May 2022, after the office stopped using the funds for their services, the campaign reported paying them for transportation. All very suspicious. And she's not following the laws. Got a lot of questions here that Sam is asking, and you can go read through all of them. But who traveled on the flights? Where'd they go? Why didn't they fly commercial? Did she check her Tish or not? What's next? They want separate freedom of information requests and more. And you can see the whole box is starting to come off. So written by Sam Antar, whitecollarfraud.com. Please go support him. His work, I think, has been instrumental in bringing this to the forefront. But now she is wanting everyone to foot the bill on her defense. And this is a New York State senator who is on with Laura Ingraham talking about what a slap in the face this is to all New Yorkers.
You're already in the highest tax state. There's any number. We're going to pass a budget, Laura, that's going to be about $255 billion here in New York in the next couple of days, passed, by Democrats in both the Senate Assembly by Governor Hochul. And this is maybe one of the more egregious. They're going to take $10 million of public money, tax dollars, for private legal defense. Don't forget, this is regardless of whether it's even related to your job. So even if somebody else had a DUI, they could tap into this fund under this law. But this was drawn up expressly for one official, Tish James, to defend, so she can use the tax dollars for her legal defense against the federal government.
Legal slush
it's a
fund.
complete
Yeah, legal
slap in the
slush
face of
fund
the
because
taxpayers. You're already
That's
in the
all it
highest
is. And
tax.
New York, right? They just kind of protect their own. She's a good Democratic operative. They're not going to let her go without a fight. Elise Stefanik also said, she's a representative out of New York, said, I commend the FBI and the U.S. attorney for investigating Tish and her mortgage fraud. Nobody is above the law. These serious allegations, falsifying records to secure favorable loan terms on properties in Virginia and New York, threaten public trust in our institutions. The hypocrisy is staggering. Tish James allegedly committed the same crime that she falsely and illegally prosecuted President Trump for. For years, I've led the charge against Tish James's political weaponization and abuse of her office to target Trump and other political opponents illegally. In February 2024, I filed a bar complaint with the New York State Committee, we read it, detailing how she violated ethical rules during her biased investigation and prosecution of President Trump, including over 50 prejudicial social media posts in just the first 5 weeks of his civil fraud trial. Her weaponized lawfare campaign, which began the moment she announced her candidacy for AG, undermined the impartiality expected of New York's top prosecutor. Tish James's actions embody the corruption among the New York elected Democrats led by Kathy Hochul. I recently exposed how Kathy and Albany Democrats secretly inserted language into the budget to cover James's expenses with taxpayer money. This abuse of power is an insult to New Yorkers already struggling with high taxes, saying the investigation into Tish is a vital step toward justice. I will continue to fight to expose New York corruption, protect constitutional rights, and hold these failed Democratic leaders in New York accountable. And we're happy to see it. Now, for some reason, New York is erecting giant statues of, I guess, a black woman. People are asking a very reasonable question. Is this Letitia James? and trying to identify who this individual is or why she's on this platform or what the hell's going on in New York. But couple ideas on why it's not Tish. Some people have noted that it could be Letitia, but you can tell it's not because the mouth is closed, you know. She's not scrambling, she's not having facial spasms like illegitimate president. Remember when she said illegitimate president? So like her face is kind of more normal. No facial spasms. And also she has her shoes on. Remember, she took her shoes off in court with Judge Nipple, stunk the whole place up. Alina Abba had to call it out. Will you do something about this, please? So although it looks like Tish, doesn't seem to be Tish. And also this woman's ass is much smaller, it looks like. So we can see the Blaze posted that. Good questions about it. But they're saying that this was all politically motivated. Here is the report over on Fox News, Tish reacting and not happy about it.
It's really a fascinating, Liz, because reports say New York State Attorney General Letitia James, well, she's under investigation by the FBI, but her lawyers are calling it politically motivated. James is said to be the subject of a wire, mail, and bank fraud criminal referral to the Justice Department, all over allegations she has committed mortgage fraud. She's accused of listing a house in Virginia as her primary residence, even though, you know, she serves as the Attorney General of New York State. That's in Albany, 500 miles away. James is also accused of falsifying the number of units in this brownstone building in Brooklyn that she owns. You have a lower number of units, you can qualify for a lower mortgage rate for that property.
Yeah.
Attorney General has called the accusations baseless and says President Trump is targeting her for winning that massive civil fraud case against him last year.
This is nothing more than a revenge tour. This is nothing more than vindictiveness. This is nothing more than an individual who's upset at me because we secured a $454 million judgment against him and his family and his company.
She is freaked. She knows that grand jury is busy analyzing her documents. She had to come up with a justification to prosecute Trump based on legitimate documents. Hers are not in order as Trump's were, and she seems like she's freaked.
Well, the lawyer Abby Lowell is echoing that writing, quote, "This appears to be the political retribution President Trump threatened to exact, that AG Bondi assured the Senate would not occur on her watch." But sources say the brownstone occupancy filing was done by the previous owner and that Virginia home, while it apparently is owned by James's niece. The FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, though, would not confirm this investigation, but we may hear more about it later tonight. Attorney General James is set to appear at a public event. Certainly, we will try to ask her about this investigation.
Do it. See what she says. I'm sure she's going to have a nice reaction there. So, Letitia is freaked. She should be. She broke the law multiple times. She came after Trump, tried to create and concoct a case against him. And it's really bizarre how these people don't have their own affairs in order. Like Fani Willis going after Trump. Meanwhile, she's committing $700,000 of fraud with her lover, gets disqualified from the case. You're like, what? Same thing with Tish. Got to keep your nose clean if you're going to go after Trump. They're not doing that. Got to have your affairs in order, because now we're seeing that it's confession through projection, right? It is the Democrats accuse the other side of doing exactly what they're doing. So if Trump's a fraudster, you can just turn around. Whoever's calling him a fraudster, they're the fraudster. Tish is freaked. We don't know if the statute is meant to cheer her up or what, but of course, New York, they just love Tish and people who look like Tish. And they want to create statutes for them to, I guess, scare New Yorkers into fear of being prosecuted by one of the most corrupt people on the planet. So we'll, of course, continue to cover this. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. We'll see if this grand jury comes back with an indictment soon. All right, my friends. Well, it has been a beautiful day. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we covered today. We got a new pope, an American pope. So we hit some of the highlights on that at the start of the show. Trump celebrating. We see some multiple reaction here from many different people saying he might be a woke pope. He might be a hope pope from Matt Walsh. And so we'll see what happens as the Catholic Church goes through this transition. But shout out to the fellow Catholics out there, our fellow Catholics, on us getting a new pope. So that's cool. We also, and it's an American pope, which is cool. So we also then talked about the Supreme Court. This case is involving TPS, temporary protected status. 500,000 people, Trump said, you're no longer protected. Obviously, you never should have been protected. And that protection is now revoked. So they all sued. Judge said, you can't do that. Who do you think you are, the president? And now we're at the Supreme Court. So Judge Jackson has issued an order to issue a response on this by May 15th next week. And as it stands, the case is not stayed, it looks like. So a little bit of time for them to continue to maintain these people in custody. And we'll see what the Supreme Court ultimately does on that one. So read through that full filing, got a good 20, 30 pages here from D. John Sauer and some good analysis, essentially. It's actually a pretty wild explanation. It's like the judge is literally wrong, like in the statute. It's not even up for interpretation. It's just she's inverting the rules. Bizarre. But that's what they do when they're political hacks. We also then saw Kash Patel kind of get into it a little bit with Senator Kennedy. It's like, are you going to get us the records before I drop dead, dude? And we want Kennedy to live a nice, long life, but we also want those records. And so hopefully those are not as related as Kennedy made them out to be. But we talked about that. Then we talked about Tish, man, and she's got two simultaneous problems, one in New York, one in Virginia. FBI probing her booty up there in New York, and a grand jury probing her booty in Virginia. So it's been a lot for her. Now she's out screaming about it. I don't know if the statute's going to cheer her up or not, but it has been a beautiful stream. And one more final reminder that tomorrow we're going to have an early show. So we'll be back early tomorrow, 9 a.m. my time and 12 noon Eastern time. We're going to do one stream tomorrow because I got some family coming in town. We're going to hang out and, do the family thing. And then Saturday, Membos, we're going to do meatballs on Saturday with Mama G. Should be, I think, probably around 12:30 or 1 my time. So probably 4 or 5 Eastern time, because she's got something she's got to do that morning before we force her to make meatballs for us. That's what her Mother's Day gift is. Going to come up here and make us meatballs. It's okay. I'm going to do the dishes. And there's a lot of dishes. She gets meatballs everywhere, on the ceiling. It's going to be a lot of fun. So come check it out. If you're a member, come check it out. Locals or YouTube. And it should be fun. Meatballs for days. I think we're making 100 or so meatballs. So it should be fun. Family recipe. So it should be good. All right. So my friends, now it's time to hear from you. Thank you so much for sending in these donos. Welcome aboard to new members. We had a great members only stream this morning. And of course, we'll see you back on Saturday for meatball extravaganza. And I don't know what's going to go down. I don't know how we're even going to do it, but it's going to be fun. All right. So who is here? Yeah. What's up? Picking an appropriate GIF is hard. We had so many of them. Yes. What's going on? We had that Snoop Dogg one. What's going on? Hey, here's one. From Pope Francis, bidding bon voyage. We have a new pope in the house. John McGarvey says, picking an appropriate GIF is hard. It's a hard way to start the show off. Yeah. Good to see you. Good to see you, John. Thanks for clipping for us today and for the dono. What's up, Rick D? You got 60 to 80 tomatoes. You feeding everyone at Luke Air Force Base? LOL. I know. We got literally we got 60 for sure. I think my mom might be bringing 20 more. We got a lot. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. And we're going to stream it all on Saturday. It'll be fun. What's up, Liberum? This Pope used to seat to the left of Francis. Really? To his left? Good to know that, Liberum. Well, I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more about him over these next, his lifetime. FD Man says, Zelensky is conducting drone strikes on civilians in Russia. How is dragging feet to peace Z half sissy Zelensky. I like it. Z half sissy Zelensky. Yeah. And yeah, it's funny. On his new welcome to the Pope, he's like, I hope the Pope loves Ukraine as much as the last Pope did. You're like, geez, man, can you take 2 seconds off? Doan, divine intervention. Trump went into Mach speed after the bullet was pushed a 1/2 inch to the left. Yeah, that's another great example. It's kind of the first one that I think comes to mind. And it's weird, right? Like history has a way of putting people where they need to be to make things work or not work. And this might be that. So I'm open to it. Thank you, Doan. What's up? Liberum says, I truly miss Pope John Paul II from Liberum. Well, he watches from down on high. Thank you, Liberum. Trent B, what's up, Trent B? Thank you for the dono, Trent. Thanks for becoming a member. Grab the members only stream from this morning. We had 3 good segments from this morning. Hey, Eugene Sands says, I just paused Conclave on Prime to watch you. Oh, gosh, I saw that. I do not recommend that film at all. If you want to be agitated, then you can watch it. It's pretty good up until the last 5 minutes, and then you go, oh my gosh, this is just, that's what it was. And it's pretty insulting at the end when they shove it in your face. It's like you feel almost like you got had by the freaks. What's up? FD Man says, inferior district court dirtbag judges illegally moving imaginary goalposts. How communistic of the leftist judges. They are psychos. Yeah. FD Man, these inferior district court judges irreparably harmed and damaged the immigration system and the USA societal system. From FD Man number 12. Yeah, good to see you. Another one. Secretary of Homeland is following the black letter law. Inferior district judge is using opinion, which is illegal in the black plain letter text in the law. IDJ thinks that they are good. Yeah, no, I know. It's like on the face of it. It says it right there. You cannot review it unequivocally. And the judges do it anyways because they hate Trump and they think they run things. Mike Hayes, what's up, Mike Hayes? Thank you for becoming a member, Mike. We'll see you on Saturday for the meatball stream. Spuds, what's up? Hey, 1 more month and we're going to have triplets here. Is that right? 27 divided by 9? Oh my gosh, that's 3? Wow, have to get a calculator for that one. Thank you, Spuds. Thanks for being here for 3 full babies. Man. That's a long time. We've seen some serious business. Rob, what's up? Hey, no due deference to the executive branch. Why can Kristi Noem do it? Because the law says she can. Hello? The courts think they make the law. Judicial tyranny, judge, trans, judicial presidents. Thank you, Rob. G-Man, what's up? Hey, look at that. 15 months, baby. I had no idea. Good to see you, G-Man. It goes fast, especially when we're having fun. And thank you for being here and being such an amazing membo and always contributing. What's up, G-Man? Thank you. Hey, Katania Nana says the DOJ opened an investigation into New York AG James. Boom, got that on that last segment. Thank you, Katania. Ahead of us on the segment, but boom, we nailed it. Jennifer O'Connell says, oh man, I'm sorry that happened. Anyways, Jennifer, thank you for the nice comment, says, and for the attempt. They need to just quote the Constitution and hand out copies to all of these judges and congressmen with the Article 2 powers highlighted. Yeah, I mean, that's a nice thought, Jennifer, but they'd have to actually read it. So I think the next step would be like a Clockwork Orange, like we could just take, I don't know, actually all of Congress, really, and just Clockwork Orange their eyeballs, like this, and just make them read it. Here it is. Article 1, just write it in a big screen on their eyeballs because they don't like to read it. Many of them, I think, might just melt if you handed it to them, like the Wicked Witch, when she's like, "Boo!" They just melt away. Yeah, because, it's like kryptonite to them. Thank you for the comment, Jennifer O'Connell. Good comment. What's up, Sheila Pooh? Sauer is an incredible lawyer. Now if SCOTUS will just get off their booties and do the right thing. I know. John Roberts was out talking. He's awake. That's good. At least he's awake now. We saw him. John, you were out last night. So do you see what your court is doing? Anybody tell you what's happening lately? Are you aware? Do you have any idea? FD Man, what's up? These inferior district judges in their orders and opinions sound like drunkards in a bar with poop and brain mouth. Diarrhea of the brain and mouth. Okay. Well, I think that is accurate. Yeah, I think Beryl Howell in particular, she usually has a giant glass of wine and writes her opinions. That's how they read. FD Man says, kicking 500,000 aliens out of the country is not going to harm the USA. It's going to take a weight off the back of tax-paying U.S. citizens. It's not even going to be a dent. Half a million out of 20 million? Pfft. It's like, all right, I'll get out of bed for 500,000. It's a good number, but just a dent. Dave, thank you. Dave PM number 2. Thanks for becoming a membo and joining up. Don, did Comey author his own criminal conviction with his stupid books? He did write a bunch of stupid books. I don't know. I didn't read them. I do remember a story about Comey, though, and something he wrote in one of those books that was kind of coming back to bite him. I think that they're pretty careful at that level. So he probably had multiple lawyers glance it over. There's like no liability at all before they hit publish. But you never know. We're discovering a lot. Maybe it's not in the book where the criminality lies. Hey, what's up, John McGarvey? Oh my gosh. Judge Jeanine Pirro. Congratulations to Judge Jeanine Pirro. Man, what's going to happen to the 5? She's going to be appointed interim U.S. attorney for D.C. Jeanine was assistant DA for New York, then went on to serve as county judge and DA, where she was the first woman ever elected to those positions. During her time, Jeanine was a powerful crusader for victims of crime. Her establishment of the DV Bureau, Domestic Violence, in her office was the first in the nation. Wow. She excelled in all ways. In addition to her legal career, Jeanine previously hosted her own Fox News show, Judge Jeanine, for 10 years, currently on the 5, one of the highest rated shows on TV. Jeanine is incredibly well qualified for this position, is considered one of the top DAs in the history of the state of New York. She is in a class by herself. Congratulations to Jeanine. And we are very happy for Jeanine. She's been a lifelong fighter. We appreciate all that she's done for the cause. We also mourn the loss of Ed Martin. That was a sad thing. And we understand the need to make these changes. We're big fans of Ed Martin. We hope that he really finds a nice spot somewhere good because he's very valuable. Not to diminish from Judge Jeanine, but it is, I think, a bummer that we have loser Republicans like Tom Tillis who can't do anything good when it actually is good for America. Tillis will vote for Merrick Garland, but he's not going to vote for Ed Martin because he's a piece of work. But anyways, not to detract from Judge Pirro's announcement, big news, and that's going to be interesting. So the 5 has an opening. Gutfeld, hello, call me. Hey, Sheila Poo, what's up? Games, many prayers from our community for peace, healing, and protection. Sheila Poo, RP Games, shouting out many prayers for our community for peace, healing, and protection. No doubt about it. Uncle Bozy, I hope that eventually Trump's DOJ and the DEA gets around the raiding the illegal pot dispensaries all over the U.S. They would really make the leftists' heads explode. Probably too busy frying bigger fish right now, though. Is that are there illegal dispensaries? I mean, I think it's also legalized in many states. So are they running? They're growing like off the books? That's interesting. There's a lot of that type of stuff that I'm curious about. Not that one, and like the alfalfa farmers, like the people who just come and steal the water tables to like produce alfalfa. We had a big problem with that in Arizona, where I think it was the Saudis came and like made alfalfa, stole all of our water from the water table, and then it's like illegal farming, like illegal pot farming. It's interesting, you know. They just take land over and grow. Sheila Poo. I would feel so much better about the whole Epstein thing if either Bondi or Kash would say they can't release it as it would endanger prosecutions. Yeah, it's like, I understand the reason why they're not saying, giving details, because anything you say about it gives you actionable intel on what's happening. Like if there are prosecutions, then everybody who thinks that they're in the wake of that prosecution starts to lawyer up and lock down and clam up. So it's like, you don't want to intimate that. But logically, are there going to be other prosecutions? Can there be other prosecutions? What are the charges going to be? Statute of limitations? Are they covered by Epstein's original plea deal? Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't. Like, I just feel like it's an excuse. They're just stringing us along. So I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see. Fred Pedamonte, when we get to 6 months, I'm going to start having questions. Fred Pedamonte says, mark my words, today, Pam Bondi is not a good one. Pam Bondi is not a good one from Fred Petamonte. We'll see. We'll see. Wookie Elnil, what's up? 21 months as a membo. Old enough to drink in months. Spike the sippy cup, man. Get that toddler hammered on that. What are the toddlers like on that fruit punch, baby? You know, just go wild. Give a kid like a taste of that Coke, you know. Whew. Leonard, not Hunter's Coke, like Coca-Cola. Good to see you, Leonard. Thank you. What's up? Leonard said this on The View today. Biden Brandon said Trump attacked Harris's race and gender. Trump never mentioned or alluded to Harris's race or gender. Well, it came up in the context of he doesn't care what it is, really. I don't care what her race is. I don't care what her gender is. She can call herself whatever she wants if she's black or Indian or whatever. Remember? No one knew. She didn't know. So I agree. He didn't bring it up. She brought it up constantly. But since she brought it up, we wanted to know what is she really? We don't know. FD man, Kash in office. What's up? For just over 70 days and Pam just over 100 days, they got to clean up the FBI and DOJ and give everyone the 411 about Pelosi and all the other bad actors in jail. Let them work. They ain't magic. Says Trump, Pam, and Kash and the all new admin. Are we there yet? It's been over 100 days already. Why are you dragging your feet? I need. Bunch of babies, says FD man. What's up, Chubby? The irony of mentioning some of Tish's violations might be out of the statute of limitations is hilarious. Given how Judge Areola ignored that ruling in the appeals court in Trump's case. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And he didn't like hold them as charges, but he's like, well, they're instructive and they educate me on everything else. And I can get context from all of the other allegations that are not allowed in the case. Good memory on that, Chubby. Yeah, it did come up. Hey, retired 5-0, what's up? 1 month as a membo. First month's the hardest. Retired 5-0 in the house. Sounds eerily familiar to like former LEO in the house. And maybe like Sergeant Bob and others. FD man, what's up? Big Tushy Tish, Stinky Feet, probably needs to be on a private jet because it's public safety. Oh, because of the odor and the size. Yeah, Tish has a lot of complexities because of the size of her Tish. So like that one floor in that building she owns, she might be living in 2A. The reason she needs a separate electric meter in 2B is not because she's committing fraud, okay? It's because she needs dedicated air conditioning for her ass that lives in 2B. Same thing here with this private jet. It's too big for a carry-on. She's trying to get on American Airlines. You're like, that's not going to fit in there. Like, oh, it'll fit. Like, it's not going to fit. She's like, it'll fit. They're like, put it in there. See if it fits. She tries and kind of squeezes it. Like, I told you, it's not going in there. You can't fly on this airplane. Probably why. John Allen. Hey, Rob, I didn't realize that it had been so long since I started following you. Over 5 years, man. That's a lot of babies. Now, I'm not sure if I've been following you longer than Jake from Oxford, but I've been following you longer than Hunter's crack dealer. That's for sure. It's definitely been a great time, and I enjoy all the winning lately. Us too, John. Lots of joy in the air. Of course, you've been doing a great job because I haven't been criticizing you lately. LOL. Have a good one, my friend, and keep up the good work. Good to see you, John. Nice to have you in the house. Hunter's crack dealer's been around a while. And so have you, John. We appreciate you. Thank you for the nice comment. It's good to see you again. Jeffrey Adams, what's up? Rob, they could just get the aircraft flight logs. Yeah. But I think we still can't really see exactly who's on there, right? Sometimes there's initials and stuff. I see what you're saying, just to get a handle on Tish. Wrap both hands around it. Hey, John Allen, Rob, Hunter's crack dealer here. Oh, Hunter's crack dealer. It's been some time since you're at the White House. Hey, I don't know who this John Allen thinks he is, but I think I was following you before he was. Now, I'm not sure about how many babies it would be by now, but I do know it's been a lot of crack bag sales. Wow. It's like multiple annual revenues of crack. Thanks for watching the news and helping keep my best customer out of jail. On that note, have you heard any more news about whether they're going to try to find out a way around the pardons for Hunter? And for that matter, any other pardonees? And by the way, do you have any contact information from Jake from Oxford so I can hook him up with some crack? Thanks, Rob. Have an awesome Friday and weekend. That's from Hunter Biden's crack dealer, who's a member of our locals community. Nice to have you, Hunter's crackhead dealer. No, I haven't seen anything more on Hunter, although I did see that the Bidens are like broke. I think I saw Mark Halperin was sharing that. He's talking to Inside People. They're like, we got to get some money going because he's not selling his paintings. Tyler says, all right, something is definitely wrong with YouTube, StreamYard, or your computer. I was catching up, just got booted from the stream. Now can only go back to the beginning of the Tish segment. Yeah, that is weird. We did a packet test on our internet here after the show yesterday, and you know how many packets we lost? All of our IT people out there. How many packets did we lose? 0. Not one single packet lost here, which is the standard that we want to set here because we can't even have 1 byte of data lost in transmission. That's how critical our work here is. So thanks, Tyler. I might do that. I might switch over to Restream because it's been going on for a week or 2 weeks now. And we did a speed test live on the stream, and it was 0 packet loss. Our speeds were good. So I don't think it's on our internet end. It might be. I don't know. But thanks for maybe it's YouTube, right? So Mad Hatter says gaming on Twitch. YouTube was doing that to me. That's why I switched to Twitch. What's up, Mad Hatter over on Twitch? YouTube clogging our tubes. Okay, I might switch to Restream tomorrow, and we'll just try that to see if it is better or something. Yeah. Sparky says no problems there, right? So it's like intermittent. Like some people are having it, some people are not. It's hard for me to diagnose it. Yeah, and then other people are on TVs, like mobile TVs. Some people are on mobile apps. So I'm not sure, but thank you for helping me diagnose it because I want this to be flawless. Not a single packet lost ever, anytime, ever. Sergeant Schultz, what's up? Good to see you, Sergeant. Grab the Membo stream this morning, and we'll see you for the meatball session on Saturday. FD Man says, the last time I saw a mouth like Big Tish's, thank you, FD Man, Sheila Poo. When she goes to trial, will she be narcissistic enough to testify? I sure hope so. Well, remember Fannie Willis was. She came barreling in there with her Kool-Aid outfit. I'm ready to testify. Remember that? Tish James might do it too. You never know. NY says, okay, so with that notarized statement from Tish saying she's a Virginia resident, the Republican opponent should go to state court, file a lawsuit claiming she isn't eligible to run. She'd have to plead the 5th. Yeah, she's got lawful residency in another state. I mean, it's the document. It's on the doc. She signed it. So looks great in Chandler, says Arizona Pools on Twitch. And then someone else says it's internet. Might be internet. So yeah, who knows? We're going to keep diagnosing. John Allen, Rob, can you tell Hunter's crack dealer to stop trolling? It's very immature. We have a show to do. Rob, I still haven't missed even one of your shows, but not always able to make it live. You're still my favorite YouTuber. Thank you, John. Man, I appreciate that. That's a tall order, man. There's a lot of amazing YouTubers out there who are much more competent than your boy here. But thank you, John. Glad you're making it. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully life is good, work is good, and you're doing amazing. Steven Siegel, PhD, says, my friends went to see the statue, and they said it has an odor of spoiled fish. That's interesting. What part of the statue were they observing? Like, where were they standing? Pretty important information. I don't really know what it's made out of, so that might have something to do with it. FD Man says, Stinky Tish needs to tell her not to speak about this case because anything can and will be used against her in the court of law. Well, she's running her mouth a lot right now. You saw her screaming away to the cameras. Yeah. Hey, Tyler, what's up? Maybe try streaming from your phone or another PC next time. Week 1, that could rule out computer problems. It could be the computer. It's just a Mac laptop. It could be that. But I feel like it's been pretty solid. And I'm not getting any like internet warnings. So I don't know what it is. But anyways, Doan, what's up? Only 2 popes from the Western Hemisphere ever. Leo 14 and the last one. Leo 14 and the last one. This one came in. Hey, what's up? Is that a Calvin? That's called baseless because Calvin stole the base. What's going on? FD Man says Tishy should be banned from the airlines because she's so big. The cars are. The left is celebrating, but the new pope is anti-women in the clergy and anti-same-sex marriage. Is that right? I don't know that I saw the left celebrating a lot. I think I saw more on the right upset with it. And then I saw some on the left celebrating that the right was upset. But I haven't paid much attention to the left on this one. Do they even like God or religion at all? Like, why do they even care about our Pope at all? Tyler, what's up? I'm purposely late nearly every day to catch up at 2x, something you can't do on the Locals app. Same thing happens nearly every day now. It's very annoying. All right. Yeah, so that's consistent. Like, it's a repeated thing. I might have to switch my my platform. So it's currently StreamYard. I emailed StreamYard and I said, can you help me? They said no. They said, check your internet. I said, I did. I said, okay, well, just keep trying. Okay. Well, I know Restream, I can see the analytics. So I can swap over there. And then if it is my internet, I'll be able to see it. G-Men. Zelensky is going to hit the Victory Day parade in Moscow tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised if the CIA works with him since she will be there as well. Wow, is that happening tomorrow? Interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. To hit the Russians on Victory Day for World War II. S. Quinn, the thing is with Epstein, I'd guess there are numerous American politicians and probably foreign leaders in that file. I'm guessing they can't jeopardize foreign leaders. Yeah, I would imagine that too. It's like too big to fail, right? It's one of those. They can't let it out because it's just too big. And I would imagine at this point, most of the most damning evidence is probably gone anyways. And who knows what's left. Good to see you, S. Quinn. RP Games, what's up? I've got an unexpected move to plan for. So pray, please. Hopefully it goes well, RP Games. Moving is one of the most stressful things they say in people's lives. So hopefully it's for a good reason, the RP Games. And it is something that you'll get through. We appreciate you saying that. Rick D, says, thank you. Guess word got out. You put an end to medical testing on beagles. Oh, it's Snoopy flying through the sky. Thank you. Not doing that anymore. Hey, FD man, someone on Kash's team is reading those books. Don't be surprised if those books bear fruit in the case against Comey. Uncle Bozy says, marijuana is still against federal law. Yeah, that's true. So you think Trump should raid the states that have legalized it? In other words, I think that would definitely make liberals' heads explode. And I think it would probably not be a politically smart thing for Trump to do. For a long time, I'm wondering why the Republicans haven't decriminalized or made an effort in that way in the first place. Like, I think that could have been easy, low-hanging fruit for them. They didn't need it, but anyways, good to see Uncle Bozy. Doan, Pyro is too ethical for the Senate to confirm her as DC's top law dog, interim at best. So won't be around for a while, is what Doan says. Sharpie Guy. Hey, Watchers and Rob, I watched something today about Hungary came out with receipts about how Soros and the EU produced a paper with instructions and plans for 1 million per year immigration and take away the Christian values and destroy the population into unrecognizable third world status. Please check it out. He was very upset about it. Thank you for that, Sharpie Guy. Yeah, it sounds like what they're planning around the whole world. Uncle Bozy says states that legalize marijuana did so in violation of federal law. It's true. Those states are defying U.S. law. Acid Burn, what's up, Acid Burn? Thanks for the dono. Sandy Cranston, good to see you, Sandy, says, finally caught alive. Membo for 1 month. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. Pritchie, finally catch alive, albeit almost finished. Work is kicking my butt, man. Work is good. Work is a blessing. Love y'all, Watcher fam. We love you back, Pritchie. Glad you're out there getting it. Getting it. Thanks for being here for 14 months. Acid Burn says, until Trump got elected, I spent the worst months of my life with you, Rob. You got me through some hard times with Joe. Thank you. Man, Acid Burn. I resonate with that comment because I was there with you, man. We were going through it. There were hard times for me. That whole COVID era, that whole situation, it was rough. It was rough. My family was hit, pretty hard. Joey was in the hospital for over 40 days. My mom was in there. It was a rough deal. And you guys got me through it, man. I'm glad that we got through it together. It's a real honor to be here and to be able to navigate those times together. Thank you, Acid Burn. Uncle Bozy, YouTube hates you, Rob, but they need you, and it's eating them alive. It's eating them alive. So I'll figure it out. I'll switch to Restream tomorrow. And if it's better tomorrow, then we'll know. StreamYard is a-ho. What's up, Ellie? What's up, Ellie? Great to have you. Thank you for becoming a member. Grab the members only stream from this morning and we'll see you on Meatball Saturday. Doan says, careful giving Tish the boot. You might not get it back. Oh, because it'll be stuck in her butt. What's up, Tyler? Just told us the problem. It's a Mac. Should have said that, huh? Shouldn't have said that. Funny. Tyler. So, so the technical setup is we're live streaming from here. Everything goes into an ATEM mini, which is how I switch right here. All this switching is being done on an ATEM, but the ATEM just acts as a webcam and all the audio, everything is ported into the ATEM, which then inputs it into a webcam feed, which goes into StreamYard. Of course, tomorrow it will be going into Restream, and Restream has much better analytics, honestly, but it's a little bit different. Like some features are different, but I don't think it matters. Anyways, all right. So my friends, thank you so much for sending those in. You're amazing. Thanks for supporting our work. Welcome to new membos. Another reminder, tomorrow we're live not long from now. So we'll be back 12 noon Eastern tomorrow to get into our Friday stream, close out the week together. Our friends on X says, I have a solution to mass deportation hearings per the judge's order. Put him in a hockey rink. What's up, Mini Tika? Great to see you. Thanks for sharing the link to our Rumble page. B Torn is here. Satellite Boy is here. Satellite Boy says, the stream didn't pop up in my notifications today. The hell's going on? Like it does every other day. I thought you might not be on, but I checked your page. I'm glad I checked. And your last name has all 5 syllable vowels in it. So there's that too. It's true. A-E-I-O-N-U all in there. I know, it's good. Nice. Nancy, wonder is that large statue Tish? It has its shoes on. I know. And dear Tishy Poo, when you aim for the king, you best not miss. What is clear is that SCOTUS has to stop these technically law-breaking judges, says Stephen. And it's great to see our friends over on X, Satellite Boy, B Torn, Mini Tika. Very nice to see everybody. And of course, always good to follow all of our friends on X. Thanks for saying hello over there, my friends. Now, we'll wrap it up on the day. Oh my gosh, Heavy Johnny. Astrophotographer Heavy Johnny, a.k.a. Thor. I ordered you the wedge to your C-Star. I need an address to send it to when I get it from ZWO. Check your locals' DMs. Heavy Johnny, you're so good to me, man. Thank you for doing that. So we were talking about this morning. So I've got this telescope called a C-Star, and they just rolled out this new feature, and it has equatorial mode, so it can move around in new ways. And I went to go buy I guess it's called a wedge. I was going to call it like an adapter. And guess where it comes from? It comes from China. And they said, we're not going to send it to you, US punks, because of Trump's tariffs. And so I said, I'm suffering under Trump's tariffs. I guess I'm a Democrat now. Just kidding. I said, well, it's okay. I'll get something else. Whatever. It's not a big deal. Find it somewhere else. And Heavy Johnny is going to get it for us. And Johnny, thanks for doing that, man. I'll send you an address and I'll send you some cash moolah too. Thanks for getting that for me and sending it over. That'll be fun. So the tariffs, the tariffs on China are really hitting the astrophotography community is what I'm learning. And Heavy Johnny is going to help us facilitate around the tariffs. Is that a crime? Are we committing a crime here? We'll pay our tariffs, okay? We'll pay them. But thanks for getting us the wedge. Very cool. What a beautiful community we got here. You guys are awesome. Thanks for that. So, all right, my friends, that is where we're going to leave it on the day. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Okay. Hey, Jeffrey Adams just shared this, says Ed Martin just moved to the main DOJ Director of Weaponization. Even that's great too. I'd like to see him there at U.S. District Attorney for D.C., but he'll be great there. Director of Weaponization, to undo all of the weaponization and bring justice back to the Justice Department. So we love Ed Martin. He's done an awesome job, and we appreciate everything he's done in his position thus far, and we hope he has a bright future over there. All right, so my friends, what a beautiful day it has been. It's always a treat and a pleasure. Thank you for spending the time here with us today. Thanks for all your support, and we hope that we see you again. In this case, tomorrow. We're coming back. It's going to be an earlier stream tomorrow, so 12 noon Eastern. and we'll do one stream and then come back on Saturday for the Membo stream, Meatball Extravaganza. Before we close it out today, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. K Bean in the house, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek modding the fort down for us. We also want to thank Geegum Geegum, our meme smith extraordinaire, Elliot Dockmaster, and Just Rhonda, purveyor of fine emojis in the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody's help and grateful for you. And now, my friends, we'll leave it there on the evening. But we're coming back tomorrow morning. We'll see what the day has in store for us on a very lovely Friday. We're excited to be back here. We hope to see you there because tomorrow, when we return, we do need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.